3 in the 9th inning, nothing across. Final score of the ball game, Kansas City 4, the Tigers 2, and we'll be right back. Well, Jack Morris gave up 4 runs in the first inning tonight. A couple of cheap hits, as Al said, to start the ball game. Brett flied deep into left center field. The runners moved up. The decision was made to walk Willie Aikens to fill the bases, and Amos Otis, who's been an old nemesis of ours, Al, for a long time, came through with a grand slam home run.
Well, it looked like it was going to be one of those nights for Jack Morris. A lot of runs scored, but to his credit, he settled down. He pitched well throughout the rest of the ball game. It's unfortunate that the first 2 hitters happened to get the cheap hits, but that's part of baseball. But it's very encouraging to see Jack come back and pitch well throughout the rest of the ball game. And has to be sort of I know he feels a little down right now that he lost, but he has to feel a lot better than his performances down in spring training. Yeah,
he did not pitch well in Florida, not at all. And he said he was tired. He said the weather was hot, and once we get north, it's going to be a little bit cooler. I don't think he expected this kind of cold weather, but a little bit cooler, and he said, I'm going to be better. Well, after the first inning tonight, he was better. He allowed 7 hits tonight, 3 in the first inning, 4 after that. But as Al Kaline pointed out, Larry Gurra was just a little bit better than Jack Morris tonight. He blanked the Tigers all the way until the 7th inning. Then singles by Herndon and Walkenfuss put runners at first and third. And finally, Parrish came through with a single to drive in the first Tiger run. And then Alan Trammell, with a good piece of hitting, I thought, on a 2-strike pitch, got in another run.
Well, the Tigers sort of got some life in them in the middle of the ball game. But this guy, Gurra, always has pitched well against Detroit. If you sit back there and look for a fastball down the middle of the plate, you're going to be sitting there all night long. You're not going to see too many of them. You have to guess with him a little bit to try to figure out his pattern. I thought we'd do much better against him tonight. We had the type of hitters that I thought would do well, not the home run type hitters, the ones that spray the ball around. But again, you have to give him an awful lot of credit. He's been a tough pitcher throughout the year, and a mighty tough one against Detroit.
Al, I thought they did work better against Gurra tonight. They went to right field. Miller had to hit the right field. Herndon had to hit the right. The hit by Parrish went up the middle. The hit by Walkenfuss went to right. They were not trying to pull the ball like they normally do against.
Well, that's what they have to do, because he wins his ball games by guys trying to hit the ball out of the ballpark, because he's not going to give you the pitch down the middle, the fat pitch that you have to have to hit home runs.
We're going to send it back now, back to the station in Detroit, where Eli Zaret has put together a few highlights of this ball game, and we'll send it back to Eli, and then he'll send it back to us in just a few moments.
Thanks, fellas. The Lions score 2 runs for the Tigers, 6 hits, no errors. The Royals, 4 runs, 8 hit, 1 error. So the Tigers are 0-1. As George and Al said, Jack Morris, though a shaky start, did pitch pretty well, but to be honest about it, the Tigers really didn't have enough offense to expect to win. Larry Gurra took care of him pretty well. Let's take a look at some of the highlights. It really all comes down to the first inning of this ball game. That is the story pretty much. It's centered around this first inning grand slam blast by Amos Otis off Morris. Amos led him in RBIs in 1981 and looks up to the task again this time around. Scoring before him, Poquette, Wathan, and Willie Aikens, who was intentionally walked to get to Otis. Meanwhile, Gurra, as we said, doing his job admirably, retired a dozen Tigers in a row. The Tigers had only 2 hits through the first 6 innings. In the 7th, they mounted a mini charge. Lance Parrish knocked a single past Gurra. That scored Larry Herndon, who had led off the inning with a single. And after that, Alan Trammell made it a 4-2 ball game. He grounded to third, and that scored John Walkenfuss, who had made a nice hit-and-run single to right. So that is that. 2-6-0 again for the Tigers, 4-8-1 for the Kansas City Royals. And tomorrow, it will be Dan Petrie versus Denny Leonard, a pair of right-handers.